popping. Those are not actually gunshots.
Yes. We have exchanged the sounds of birds for
Fireworks.
the fireworks. So you can guess as to what time of year we were recording this conversation. All right, but we actually have a question to start us out with. This is the first question that we're going to answer from a potential listener, I guess, since this is sort of release of the show.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead and read it for us?
I guess they submitted a question through the website.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can read it. Many companies are struggling to hire enough quality employees. How have you navigated this aspect of running your business?
I remember hearing quality employees. You know, sometimes when someone will say a certain word, you like fixate on it, and then you realize that you were supposed to keep listening.
Do I need to read it again?
Maybe. Yeah. But all right, this time I've already got quality sort of like plugged in there. So go ahead. Yeah, read it again.
Many companies are struggling to hire enough quality employees. How have you navigated this aspect of running your business?
Okay. So it's not necessarily assuming that we have succeeded in having quality employees. It's just recognizing that, generally speaking, this era of business, that everyone is struggling in this way. Is that how you understood it, or do you think that they're assuming that we have quality employees?
I think because they're familiar with Honeymoon that we get so many comments about how great our employees are that there is an assumption there.
Okay. Yeah, I would say that there are times when we'll talk to on a panel or something like that and hear about other challenges that business owners have. And that one does feel unique, that we don't really have that issue as much, to where you're giving me that look of
I'm just like, don't
pride
say
comes
it,
before
don't
the
say
fall.
it.
So in our household,
I'm
Jessica's
sending
kids,
him daggers right now.
Yeah. Jessica's kids, they know, like, that's her number one saying. Pride comes before the fall. So if you say anything that could be interpreted as prideful. So I wasn't meaning it in a prideful way. It's just, like, as a matter of fact, we don't actually have to post and say, now hiring.
Yeah.
Please fill out an application. Like, I drove through McDonald's today for my son, and as we were going to place our order, there was a mailbox that was put out on the, like, right by where you place your order, and on the outside of the mailbox, all it said was blank applications.
Oh, they just had like a Dropbox?
You weren't even you were to pick it up. These were blank applications that you were presumably supposed to grab, fill out, bring back on your next.
Okay. Well, I've always said I think we're a little bit fortunate because a coffee shop has a certain mystique to it.
Sure.
And a lot of people like just the mystery of how to pull an espresso shot, pour a latte art, those type of things is like very interesting for people. So I think we are kind of have a leg up in that regard.
Well, I think it's a mystery of like how my car's engine works. And I don't know if there are people banging down the doors of the oil change shop either.
Yeah, but like if you think about our demographic, like a teen or an early 20-something, it just sounds like a fun job to do. I mean, even when I wanted to open a coffee shop, what did I do? I went and worked at a coffee shop because I knew that was going to be like the experience that I needed.
Yeah, now that's kind of interesting. Like, do you remember what you expected when you had that first job? You would have been what, 35?
Something.
Did you feel a little out of place in your age with like some of the rest of your? No, I don't. I mean, we know lots of people. You were at Starbucks, okay, so we can disclose that.
SB.
Yeah, there's lots of people from all sorts of different age groups that will work particularly at Starbucks because they do offer excellent benefits for their employees, even part-time employees.
I would say that most of the people were younger than me, but there was also some that were older than me, so it was like a mix of people. Okay,
so you didn't feel out of place from that, but like as you were trying to answer that question, you talked about mystery, and is that what you like, is it like, were you projecting that? Like, were you expecting that the mysteries of how to pull an espresso shot would be revealed to you? Howard Schultz would,
I mean, I think for me, it's just I wanted to be prepared. So to be prepared, you have to have experience. And it didn't at all really prepare me for owning a coffee shop. It was a totally different animal. But it did prepare me in certain ways, like how to handle an upset customer, how to handle the stress of like a rush and things that are kind of unique to our business.
So the way that you've answered the question so far, you sort of put our type of business, our industry, like in a certain category. Do you get the sense that Starbucks is experiencing the same sort of blessed number of applications that we are, or is that something you think is more reserved for local coffee shops?
Well, I wasn't done answering the question.
Oh,
I said
me.
We had a little leg up there.
I appreciate the snappiness.
But I also feel like we do a lot, that we work really hard on our culture and put extra effort into that. And so I do think that when people walk into Honeymoon, they recognize that and they say, I would like to be a part of something like that.
All right. Well, that brings like a whole bunch of other sort of questions up for me. In how do you sort of filter for culture when you're just meeting somebody in the context of an interview, or even before that, in the context of, in our case, an online submitted written application?
Yeah, and we're not perfect at it, and it's taken a lot of practice, and I still have misses sometimes, but I feel like we're starting to see patterns that are helpful and able to, like, we just recently added some more questions to the online application, just to get a little more of their personality, a little more of their responses. You know, did they take time to fill it out? Did they just give us like a quick one-liner? And those types of things. We talked about adding, a second interview, making it a little bit harder to get a job and help try to filter some of that.
So this person's question is about how much of a struggle it is right now for people to get quality employees, and your response is, let's make it harder.
Did that sound bad?
I mean, if pride comes before the fall, you may just want to check yourself, the heights you're about to drop from.
Oh, gosh. I wasn't trying to...
We've got so many applicants, we need to make it harder.
Well, okay, that is the reality, though, that without advertising, people are going to our website and we're getting probably 2 or 3, sometimes up to 5 applications a day.
Yes.
So it's more of just like a factual thing, like you said.
And some of that is that we have multiple locations and we're a single company. And so it's not just, one coffee shop getting that many applications, but it really is the case that we can be more selective, and that's not just based on volume, I don't think, but it is, I do think it comes down to some of those things that you just mentioned about the culture, and that you can make a hire that upsets the culture fairly quickly.
Yeah.
And I know that drama is something that you
avoid.
you
Like
you hate and avoid, and if someone starts to
Stir the pot?
whether they stir the pot intentionally or just something about how they're affecting the culture to you shows up as drama, that's definitely something to where it gets addressed quickly.
When I see a person that focuses on them individually instead of the team and what's best for the team, I start to see some yellow and red flags there. But I mean, we talked about this week a little bit. So, I mean, it was interesting that this question came up. We had a staff, like an all store, so all of our different shops shindig at our house last weekend.
The all shop shindig.
Which is normally we do soup night in the winter, but we were like, we can't do soup in the summer, so what else can we call it? We had, a really big turnout from one of our locations, and then a much smaller turnout from our other 2 shops. Mm-hmm. And it just got us kind of talking about what it looks like in the future it's getting harder to know every single employee.
For us as owners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's been like a hard pill for me to swallow.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's kind of easy to think and hope that you are going to be able to maintain the intimacy of relationships as growth happens. But it's like with anything. I mean, I don't know. You think of your high school friends when you go to college. You think of your college friends when you go to, the real world. It's difficult to maintain relationships when you're not in the same space all the time. And we can't divide ourselves, more than two. Like you can be somewhere and I can be somewhere.
Yeah.
But we actually can't be in 4 places at once. And so
we try to have these days where we try to do like a marathon of going to every shop and then also the West Side where we're it's under construction. And so it's just can be really exhausting to do that.
So I think that actually is, I mean, I'm trying to look at it maybe with a silver lining, but the silver lining of not being able to be in every shop every day for an extended amount of time to hit every, team member is that opens up that opportunity for the managers or what we call shopkeepers to be able to check in and take care of their specific localized crew in such a way which might be unique for somebody who's, that age.
Yeah. And if I'm being honest, I had a hard time going from one store to two because you have to give up a lot of control. And then now I'm finding, now that we have 50 plus employees, I can't actually have that personal, like, working relationship with all of them. And so it's realizing that we need to keep pouring into our operations and our management team so that they can keep pouring into the team. But like I so badly want that respect or something like where I'm there doing dishes with you
Sure,
on
yeah,
shift.
Yeah. And dishes was always, a helpful sort of like camaraderie builder. You'd show up after, a 5-hour
And they were just getting killed
slammed
or something.
And they've got nothing. You walk in, you see their faces and they're just like, help. And you're like, okay. And you're literally, you roll up your sleeves and you get there and you do dishes for like 90 minutes and you help them get caught up and you sort of set a tone of, hey, we've got this. And that was a really sort of fun thing that we got to do even more than we get to do now.
I know. And now I feel like it's going a little bit off the question. But for me, I'm having like struggles as we grow with my identity. And it might be partially because like my youngest just graduated from high school and is getting ready to go to college. And, your kids are all in high school or going into college.
Oh.
And it's like this realization that I'm not needed as much. And we have like a capable operations team. It used to be that we were doing all of these things. And it's like, I'm trying to figure out what my new routine is and what your new routine is now that we have
I've noticed
people
you trying to figure out my routine.
I'm trying to tell you what your routine should be.
I'm driving back from a tournament with my son, and Jessica is sitting here trying to nudge me into really blocking out my entire day and knowing exactly what's going to get done and when. And
I know that I would just be so disappointed tomorrow because you'll say like, I'm going to do this from 8 to 10 and this from 10 to 12. And then you'll totally do something completely the opposite just to make me mad. Probably.
That's why I do it. Yeah. Just to make you mad.
And we will both just end up being frustrated.
Yeah. Well, let's attempt to bring it back around to this question and see if we can give a satisfactory answer to, how we navigate. I think that might have been the word that was used, or at least that's what I remember from it. Getting quality employees. And so maybe some of it is the type of business that we do. It's a sexy kind of thing. Ooh, I'm going to work at a coffee shop. I sometimes go to a coffee shop and pay to be, in a space like that. And so people kind of do have a romanticized idea of maybe what's involved in it. It's like, I once had a really meaningful conversation with my barista. I would love to do that, every day and get paid and get free coffee. What could be better?
I just saw like an Instagram reel, and it was a barista. She was cleaning, and she was like, the caption was like, everyone thinks that being a barista is, making latte art, but 75% of the time I'm cleaning.
Yeah, truth. Accurate.
Yeah.
So some element is the type of business, the industry that we're in. But if there is some sort of differentiating factor, you think it comes down to being intentional about the culture that you create and protect.
Yes. I do always say protect the team. So we've had to make some difficult decisions at times when we've noticed a particular person, causing problems.
Even if they're not intending to cause problems, there's just some sort of cultural misalignment.
Yes.
And
maybe it's us. Maybe we didn't do a good enough job, like casting the vision and telling them what our mission is.
This might be a provocative question back to you, but we do exist in a single community. And so there would be sort of word of mouth. Like if we were terrible, awful employers, there probably would be some word of mouth saying, "Oh, definitely don't work for them. They, sacrifice babies,"
I see that for other employers sometimes online.
Sure, you hear things and wonder, is this just a jaded, individual, or is there a pattern here that speaks to the actual culture?
Right.
So do you think anything like that, might exist that we're not aware of, or the fact that we're still getting a lot of employees applications is a good sign?
I think for us, not to say that we've had to fire people, okay, and we've had tough conversations with people. There's only been a couple that it ended really poorly. So I'm not saying that there couldn't be anyone out there saying negative things, but I think there's an overwhelming positive tone. Even a lot of people that used to work for us, we're still friends with them when they move on to their next chapter.
And that has been so interesting, is the people when you do. So I got some really powerful advice at one time saying you can never fire somebody too quickly. Like, once you know that you have to part ways, do it as soon as possible, because there's no such thing as, I did it too soon. It's like, when take care of it.
Yeah, I think I said that to you once. I just have never had an experience with an employee where it started poorly and it somehow corrected itself.
I mean, I can think of a couple, off the top of my head, to where it stabilized, but
okay.
I do think that there are...
I'm going to be asking for names later.
Yeah, off the record. Honeymoon after dark. No, but I think you're right. It's like where there's smoke, there's fire, and it tends to be that if something feels off, it's at least a sign that you need to address something. Just even if it's just to make sure that you're reading the situation correctly. Yeah. But chances are you are sort of sensing into something. And I think it does maybe speak to the fact that that's just, it is a value to us, is to have a positive culture.
Yeah, absolutely. I would not want to do this if I didn't enjoy being around the people.
Yeah. So I think that hopefully answers that question. Maybe since I gave you such a weird, provocative, reframing, let me ask you one final question around this. Do you think that there are some people that have had such positive experiences in their time with us that they have gone on to even recommend others to work with us because it was so good, so positive? It's like, what a great place to work.
I mean, it's actually one of our questions on our application. Do you know anyone that works at Honeymoon? And a lot of times people are getting recommended by their friends that work for us. So,
yeah. In fact, if I could think of, as we are getting older, if I could think of a really cool legacy sort of from this chapter of our lives, however long it lasts.
Isn't that weird to think about?
It kind of is.
It's so hard. All the time I'm like, how is this going to end? I want to know, how is this going to end?
So, Mr. Holland's Opus, we're going to have like this scene where all of our employees come back and they make the world's biggest cappuccino for us.
I just imagine them speaking at our funerals.
I mean, that's basically what Mr. Holland's Opus is, except he's alive.
Okay.
Spoiler alert. I mean, it's a 30-year-old movie, but like they come together and they celebrate.
Did you make me watch that?
I think I did.
Okay.
Well, at least I made you watch the beginning of it.
Yeah, I did. I didn't really watch it closely. It was really long.
Yes, and really amazing.
Sorry.
Because
this is
teacher...
part of our relationship where, number one, I don't remember movie titles. Or actual movies.
Or I was going to say, or plot lines, or
it.
characters, or actors, or actresses.
I typically fall asleep.
So, Mr. Holland, played by Richard Dreyfuss, he has this, decades of experience of investing in students. He thinks, inspiring them to play music, and then they go off and do things that are unmusic related, or so he thinks. Mm-hmm. But the impact he has in their lives ends up setting them on different trajectories, and they're appreciative of it, and they love him, and they come back and they play this song that he had written, in his early days, and his dream was always to perform this, but he got quote unquote stuck being a teacher. And then his big revelation is, this is my life's work, is investing in these young people who are now not so young people. And honestly, yeah, that would be like an amazing legacy to have.
Yeah, because when I think about it, I'm like, really, you die, and besides your kids, really, there's not a lot of legacy.
You could get a road named after you, like Bob Jones.
Yeah, you could. But I mean, we have all of these employees that we have had interactions with and got to pour into, even if it's for a season.
Yeah. Well, and Bob
That's
has...
really cool.
Just shout out to Bob Jones. He has so many people who have so many stories about how he's invested in them, and he's somebody I look up to in that same sort of way. So, yeah. Well, thank you for the question, faithful customer and listener to our podcast, and hasn't even published an episode yet as of this recording. But appreciate the conversation you got to stir with my wife and I. And babe, I'm going to let you have the last word. I love you.
I love you too? Is that what you wanted me to say?
Well, if I answer, then it won't be the last word.
Okay, last word.
The Honeymoon Coffee Company podcast is brought to you by our website at honeymooncoffeeco.com. And if joining our crew is something that you're interested in, even though Jessica has made it a bit harder, we think you can still figure it out on our website. You can also now subscribe to have coffee beans delivered to your door from the Evansville Coffee Company every 2 weeks or every month, so follow the link on our homepage for that. As always, if you have a question for Jessica or me, or both of us, you can submit that on our website as well. Again, honeymooncoffeeco.com. We're truly proud of our crew, and we wanted to let you hear from a couple of them directly in our last segment today, which we recorded as they were heading into their final weekend shifts. We very much appreciated having Nate and Elizabeth working for us, and we hope that you appreciate listening to this conversation as well. Cheers. Hey, babe.
Hey.
We're back on the patio on our back porch, and there's going to be some additional voices in the podcast today.
I know, I'm excited.
So we have a couple of special guests. Nate and Elizabeth are another married couple, honeymoon couple, if you will, that have just wrapped up their tenure with Honeymoon, and they have a new adventure in New York City that they're about to embark on. And we thought it would be fun to invite them over to reflect on their experiences as being employees with us, being a younger married couple, and kind of the role that coffee and coffee shops have kind of played in your lives. So why don't we start out with whoever feels like they should go first, introduce themselves. Who's going first?
Hi, I'm Nate. Yep. I work at Honeymoon as a barista. I just graduated from the University of Evansville. And yeah, we're taking off to New York soon. So we're excited about that one.
I'm Elizabeth. I'm also a barista at Honeymoon. I just graduated from the University of Evansville. And now I'm starting as a student at Columbia in New York.
I love how you both said it like in the present tense, like you're still honeymoon
Yes.
baristas.
Two
Yes,
more
we
days.
have two more
days.
shifts.
Okay,
technically.
good.
I love it.
After today one.
So you all are both not originally from Evansville, though, right?
No.
So who wants to tell the story? How'd you meet?
We met in high school in Oregon, in Redmond, Oregon. We did theater. I was a junior in high school, and Nate was a senior when we started dating.
Yeah. It was a production called Big Fish. And so we met with that, and we actually, like, our first time hanging out was at a coffee shop. It wasn't like a cool little one. It was, of course, like Starbucks. 'Cause
Still a coffee
Okay,
shop.
that's
that's
okay.
okay. Yeah. But no, I mean, the first time that we hung out was at a coffee shop, which is kind of cool to see where we are now.
And you guys are only our second married couple that we've ever had at Honeymoon,
true.
so that's fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want like, do we joke because I'm like the romantic one in our relationship, and Jessica's like, let's get to the brass tacks. I'm like, paint a picture for me. All right. So, what kind of Starbucks was this? No. So you guys, you meet. I mean, is it a group? Is it a date? Like you said, I want details.
Yeah. So it was, like we said, we were in a show, Big Fish. I had asked her if she wanted to read lines, but like,
Smooth.
obviously, like, that
We
wasn't
did.
that wasn't the plan at all. So of course we didn't memorize or read probably a single line.
But if it didn't work out, we had like a fallback option. Like if the conversation wasn't going well, we could read lines.
Okay.
Yeah.
It saved us
So
from
it was
the
kind of
awkwardness.
like
Yeah.
That was smart.
thank you.
was
So,
smart.
wait, Elizabeth, were you
you.
were you interested? Were you like hoping that it was more than just
Yes.
reading lines? Okay,
Yeah.
very cool. So, like, I mean, love at first sight or love at first lines. Like the sparks were there pretty early on.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we had already been in class with each other for like a
full
long
semester.
time, for like 6 months. But then I kind of was just like, oh, why not?
Time to make
yeah, time to go
Time
for
to
it,
make
or not, And
All right, so Nate, you're a senior at this point. Elizabeth's a junior, so you are making plans for possibly leaving there. I mean, did you already know that Evansville was in your future, or when did? Because that's all the way across the country.
yeah. So I was deciding between a few, and the one that one financially made the most sense, but kind of had the most of what I was wanting to do, was Evansville. And so, yikes, yeah, that was kind of
what a
far.
great-
It has to be a culture
We
shock.
literally, I think I left 4 or 5 months
After
after
we
we started dating. So,
What a great
that
time to
was-
start a relationship.
I know,
when you're
right?
about
That's
to-
what I thought too. It
Yeah.
was now or
And
never.
you were leaving like the coffee mecca
I
of the
know.
United States and coming to Evansville.
Yeah.
So did you hear about Honeymoon right away? Did it take you time? Because we're like really close to the U of V campus.
Yeah. So I heard about Honeymoon day one.
Okay.
I mean, the
Good
school,
to know for us.
the school very much informs the students. Like during
Okay.
orientation, they tell us what's around, and they're always like, if you are gonna ever go anywhere to get coffee, go to Honeymoon because it's right
Okay,
across the
good to
street,
know.
and they just talk about
Yeah.
they talked about how much it was just like student welcome and friendly, and our hours are a little later, so after classes they recommended
still
that as a
study.
study point
Yeah.
since the library.
Nice.
So
It's
do
more
you
of a
do
social
you actually
gathering place.
remember your first experience coming into the shop as a customer?
Yes, I do. Ethan made me my latte.
Nice.
I remember it very clearly, actually, because he had a Ben Rector T-shirt on.
Wow.
And I remember being like, "Oh my gosh, I love Ben Rector too."
You guys bonded.
It was the T-shirt. So if we would have had like company uniforms, like the history or the future, would have been completely different. Yeah. So shout out to Ethan
Probably.
Price, who is you actually mentioned him without realizing you're mentioning him. The other married couple at Honeymoon, one half of that married couple. Okay, so you're a customer, you're a student, excuse me, studying theater. And Elizabeth's back home, and you guys are like, hey, we're going to maintain this long-term relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever even talked about doing long distance. We were just kind of figured we'd just do it.
And it worked.
Yeah. It
So
worked.
your plans, Elizabeth, didn't probably involve Evansville before Nate came into your life, right?
No, I had never heard of the school, and then I went to visit Nate in October.
Of what year?
Of 2019.
Okay.
And
Pre-pandemic.
yes, pre-pandemic, and I met all the English professors because I knew I wanted to be a literature major at that point. And most schools don't have literature programs anymore; they just have English, and I just didn't want to do grammar for 4 years. I didn't think that sounded super fun. So I met all the professors. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I think this might be the perfect school for me." And I couldn't even believe it, but yeah, it was between like that and one other school really for me at the end, and it just made sense to do Evansville.
So 1 year behind, you join Nate out in Evansville.
Yeah.
So now we're in 2020?
2020.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
And the pandemic has begun. So this is fall of 2020 at this point.
Yeah.
Okay. So when does the next step to where you, Nate, become a honeymoon employee, or you think, hey, I want to maybe work here?
Yeah. So I'm trying to think timeline wise. Just COVID makes everything so blurry.
Yeah.
I think it was just last October.
Last year, yeah.
2022?
Yeah, 2022. So it was
Your senior year.
still very recent. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was working at another place, and
Not to be named.
not to be named.
Okay.
I'm not talking badly about the place, but it was sometimes hard, like finding time to get away from school because it was very much like it would be like a nighttime based job. Whereas honeymoon was cool because I was able to work mornings before classes because I'm a theater performance major, and so we'd have rehearsal from 5 to 11 or 6 to 11 at night. and
Theater people
that
are
didn't
basically
work.
vampires.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And so it was nice having a job that I could do before all that stuff because it was so much easier.
And were you recommended from a fellow theater major / honeymoon employee?
Yes, Riley. Riley Miller, who is also now in New York, just a couple blocks from where we'll be at.
Yeah.
But she recommended me.
So you guys are married.
All went from there.
I skipped a stage. So like you go to school, you work a honeymoon, but then you guys start your honeymoon period when? Like when did like you say, hey, we're young 20-somethings in the year 2020, whatever, let's get married.
Yeah.
I think we just kind of knew we were going to get married anyway. So I just
Why
figured
wait?
we may as well just get married.
How
Or
soon?
not that
How
way.
soon after you guys had the Starbucks date did you're like, oh, this is the one. This is the person I'm going to marry.
It was
It was
probably
pretty soon.
during, it was, if not before I left, but definitely during,
I think
long
during
distance.
the first, yeah.
Yeah.
just because you truly could see that, like, even though it sucked, like, just having those natural conversations, even if they were through the phone, it was so easy. And it didn't feel like it was like
didn't-
built
yeah.
into the schedule, like making time. It just flowed pretty easily.
Yeah. I think we
which-
kind of knew early on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so then it becomes the practical aspect of let's set a date, let's set a place. So give us the timeline. When did you propose, or when did you propose?
Nate proposed. We got engaged in September of 2021. I was 19 and he was 20.
How did he do it?
In Newburgh. Actually, kind of by
Where?
the Newburgh honeymoon along the river.
Really?
Yeah.
Before it was
In that-
before it was a
in the
honeymoon?
Newburgh
In the
Yes.
little garden?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
My sister got married there.
Really?
Oh, really? That's so cool. That's
Yeah.
so cool.
Romance in the air.
Got engaged there, and then yeah.
So
And
then it's time to plan the wedding.
We got married 8 months after we got engaged in June 2022.
Zach was not going to let you guys get away with the very brief answer you gave. He's now
Correct.
asking for every single detail.
This is correct. Yeah. I mean, I love it. I think
That's
it's
great.
I think it's
That's
awesome because I feel like it is rare for someone your age at your stage of life to like be married and to like
for sure.
seemingly like have a successful marriage. And the fact that we did sort of share this a little bit, but then you guys also end up working together at the same coffee shop.
Yeah.
So you're married in 2022, and it's Nate's senior year. Got to figure out the rest of the details. Get a job. Got to be the breadwinner, the family. While you're going to school, and you start this job. And then at what point are you like coming home and be like, "Hey, babe, maybe you should work here too"?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Elizabeth has had barista experience in the
That
past.
was my first job.
And she was Looking, I think,
I
for a
wanted
job.
to work at a coffee shop.
Yeah, at a coffee shop or a bookstore. And I don't know. I think one day I literally was just like,
There's a job opening.
I work at a coffee shop, and you know,
I don't see you enough.
I don't, you know, I'm sure that if you wanted a job, they might hire you. So, you know,
They seem
if
to
you're,
like me.
I know. It was just, yeah, it was like if you're tired of looking for a job, I know of a coffee
got
shop
it in.
that, yeah, you might be able to work at. So,
Yeah, so how often did you guys work on shift together? I'm curious about this.
Not that often.
Because I feel like when I looked at the schedule, it would be like
Usually pretty often.
Nate in the morning, Elizabeth in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And you might see each other for like a little overlap.
Yeah, we see each other in passing, but we didn't have any like actual shifts together usually. The next few days we have some shifts together though.
Yeah.
Was that a result of your schedule or you asked the manager to
Whatever you do not schedule me with her.
keep the peace. I don't think it was.
You worked
like-
2 jobs, so he needed
That's true.
some
flexibility?
consistent, yeah.
When me and Zach work together, sometimes if I'm on the bar and he's right next to me taking orders, I'll be like rolling my eyes because he's like taking forever to take someone's order, and then we'll start bickering sometimes in front of customers.
No, it never happened. Okay, so you guys didn't get to work together that much. You are going to get to work together a little bit more in the future. But do you guys, Nate? I know you and I have talked about this before, but don't you guys kind of have a little bit of a dream to maybe someday do more of this, like whether it's coffee or books or plants? Like,
Yeah.
tell a little bit about that dream.
Well, I'm a literature major and I want to get my PhD in literature. So after I'm a professor or during, I don't know. I just think it'd be so fun to own a bookshop, and I feel like you have to have coffee at a bookshop.
Sure.
So I think it'd be really fun to have a little bookshop with a coffee bar in it.
You guys could definitely do
Someday.
it. You got
We'll
the
see.
experience.
Yeah.
It'd be fun though.
And Nate, acting is kind of that's dream number one. That's goal number one. And kind of famously, actors sometimes have to gig around at coffee shops or restaurants, you know, to make it work.
Yeah. That's the goal. That's like where my mind is set, is trying to go down that road. But, you know, there are so many other things that I enjoy doing that if it doesn't work out, I still, you know, have this great degree and experience in a variety of so many other jobs that I think it will be okay.
So well rounded.
Yeah.
Well, has the experience of like being in a locally run kind of mom and pop coffee shop, like what are some of the things that you guys learned from this? I know you said you already had experience at other places as well, but did you learn anything, or were you exposed to things that made that dream more exciting or less exciting, or more real or less real?
I think it definitely made it more exciting, and it was, you know, working at kind of, you know, a locally smaller owned business that is still growing right now. What was great, I think, for the aspect of us being students, just because being so close to the university as students, it was a lot easier to like work with the schedules. And I mean, you both and the other managers are just understanding when school conflicts come up, whereas other jobs that I've worked here, it's kind of harder to like move that schedule. Just, you know, if you had a project that you needed to work on and you forgot, like people at Honeymoon were always there to just like cover for you, and that was so nice because you might not get that.
Yeah, the size of the coffee shop in general is just nice, and like even though there's multiple locations, it still feels small. And like I've worked at like a more corporate type place, and you know, you're completely out of touch with the CEOs, and so I think it's even that connection, like you know the owners and you know your manager well. I mean, you're friends with your manager, and that's such a different experience to like working somewhere bigger.
True.
That's really nice.
Yeah, I mean, we try to find that balance between making it feel like a family and understanding that it has to still run like a business. And, you know, if you're scheduled for something, you got to show up or, you know, find ways to get that kind of covered. But when we do sort of take care of each other that way, you know, you guys have covered other people's shifts as well, like that flexibility and communication, understanding and support. is something that we've always, been really proud of when we see it, when the team really kind of comes together that way.
Yeah. And it was nice to kind of hear your experience with it, because I think as we grow, that's one of our biggest pain points, is still staying in touch with everyone and keeping the soul of Honeymoon and not becoming a corporate place where everything looks the same. So that's kind of like good feedback for us.
Yeah, I've never went and had a cheeseburger with a CEO of another company before.
It was fun. I asked Nate if he wanted to go to lunch, and like I think, were you on like a vegetarian kick at that moment?
I think I was trying to be.
Trying to be vegetarian. I was like, you got to get this double cheeseburger with bacon, and like, I mean, it is just a mountain of meat. And he's like,
huge.
But I have to say, this is at a Mexican restaurant that Zach gets a cheeseburger.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing?
it might be the best,
I understand
the best
though now.
cheeseburger. Yeah,
It was very good.
It's kind of insane. Yeah,
Did you knock him off his vegetarian kick?
perhaps.
Yeah.
And he's never gone back.
Oh,
No, but it was fun, and like that was a good moment for us, because we have been growing, and it's neat. But what was also neat for us is to be able to bring in quality people like yourselves, and we can just sort of look at the schedule, look on the camera even, and be like, oh, Nate and Elizabeth are there.
It's
We
all
can
good.
trust them. Everything's good. So, being able to be responsible is something that, we look for in team members. And I think both Jessica and I have real high hopes for both of you with whatever you're going to do next, and how much you have showed up for us and our team. And yeah,
Customers.
Customers
love you guys.
Yeah.
And so, finding out that you're going to be really close to Riley, who also worked for us, I think we need to plan a
Honeymoon New York trip.
coffee
Do
trip.
it.
Yeah.
That would be
That'd be
awesome.
fun.
We can go tour
That's
all the
always
coffee
things
shops.
that kind of inspire us if we're feeling kind of low energy in our business. It's like, let's go somewhere and visit some other shops. And it's just that energy that you get from a renewal of having a few days off, and also getting to see what
Totally.
other people are doing.
Yeah. Well, when you said renewal, that made me think of like the whole renewal of vows and like the honeymoon spirit. Like, how do you keep, the spark, alive after years? You guys are literally in the honeymoon phase right now. Like, what are you guys looking forward to, in the short and medium term with careers and relationships? How far out is the plan?
About a year. Just kidding.
We have the next year planned.
Okay.
And then
Your lease is a year?
Yep, our lease a year, my program's
is.
a year. And then I'll be applying to schools. I don't know what's going to happen with theater with Nate. I think we're just kind of
Yeah.
I love that,
taking
though.
it
It's so
I love
up in
that
the air.
you're okay with like whatever happens, because you guys have each other.
Yeah. There is no set plan. I don't think you can have one moving to New York.
Yeah.
Just because
Yeah.
there are so many huge opportunities. With the realm of, what I'm trying to go into, and then Elizabeth was schooling, like
Yeah.
yeah.
crazy things could happen in the next year.
Yeah.
But I have no idea. But I think
taking
we're
a little
ready.
at a time.
Yeah, ready
Yeah.
for whatever is
The
thrown
when
at
and the
us.
where is up in the air, but the who is not.
Yes.
Exactly.
Decided.
It is.
So romantic, baby.
I am romantic. All right. Well, appreciate you guys, everything you did for us while you're
Yes,
employees.
we're gonna
Thank
miss you
you,
guys so
yeah.
Yeah,
much.
thank
I
you.
know. We're
gonna
we
miss
were
this
talking
job.
about it yesterday.
It's a
We were
good
like,
job.
Yeah. Well, you'll eventually this weekend have your last, cup while on shift, and if we can make it happen, or we can join you and raise a glass and toast you, we definitely will. So,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah, awesome.
all right. Till next time. Cheers.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show this week. If you'd like to learn more about Honeymoon Coffee Company, check them out on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. If you'd like to submit a question for a future episode, visit honeymooncoffeeco.com/podcast. This podcast was produced by Wally Opus with editing by Brooklyn Hoffeditz, music composed by Sam Kuban, and project management by me, Wesley Luttrell. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back again soon.